In 2014, I moved to England from Canada to gain work and travel experience, and also to find myself. I ended up living in Essex with 3 other roommates. They were all women, all a bit older than I was. I was 24 at the time, Megan was 31, Cherry was 34, and Cassie was 38. Megan was from New York, Cherry was from New Jersey, and Cassie from Poland. All 4 of us shared this 3-story flat. The back of our home was the living room and kitchen. The back wall was complete glass that looked out into the garden. The garden was completely fenced in. The house had an interesting dynamic, to say the least. Tons of stories from that time in my life. I adored all my roommates, except for Cherry. After living with Cherry for 7 months, I was over her antics. One day I come home from work, I lock the door, make myself something to eat, and go up to bed. I brought some work home with me, so I'm in my nightie with all these papers around me and my headphones on jamming out. I had headphones on because Cherry was out to dinner with work friends. That meant booze, and then soon after that, a tantrum was surely to come. I just didn't want to have to listen to her crazy scream crying. I am working away, completely focused, until I feel something. I look up to see a man standing over me. I don't register it right away and passively say, "Cherry's room is on the 2nd floor," and continue to work. Cherry regularly brought strange men home. He doesn't leave. Again, "Cherry's room is downstairs, you..." He then interrupts. I'm not here for Cherry. A cold chill iced my veins. My fight or flight kicked in just then. I start surveying the situation. I look him up and down. He has a bottle of Prosecco in one hand and a knife in the other. He is about 5'10", wild muddy brown hair, and black eyes. He has a light blue polo shirt on, and one side of his collar is popped up, and a distinct Manchester accent. Once I focused in, I realized his eyes were black because his pupils were completely dilated. Shit, I was in trouble. I needed an escape plan. Unfortunately, this man was standing in between me and my bedroom door. I needed to get downstairs, but I needed for him to think it was his idea. I decided to play along. Just then, he uses his knife to pop the cork. Prosecco started flowing onto my carpet. I said, "Oh no, let's clean that up. I prefer to drink out of a proper flute anyways." He nodded, replying, "Yeah, you're a proper classy bird. Let's go." I try to act as natural as possible. I try not to show him that I'm shaking all over, and try to gain control over my breathing. We take the long journey down to the main floor of my flat, all 3 floors. He has the back of my nightie bunched up in one hand, and I could feel the point of the knife graze my back with his other. I was trying to playfully speak with him as we walked down the stairs. I couldn't tell you what I was saying. I was most likely rambling. I couldn't hear anything over my heart beating in my ears. We get to the bottom of the stairs, and there is a hallway to my left that leads to the front door. On my right, which is much closer to us, is the kitchen and living room. We make our way into the kitchen. I point to the cabinets that had the wine glasses. He said he knew where they were and started walking towards them. I now had the kitchen table in between us. It was time to run. I burst into a sprint down the hallway towards the door. My hands fumble over the locks, shaking and sweating. I swing open the door and see 2 men walking across the street. They must have been walking home from the train. There was a big train station in front of our home. I call out to them for help, and suddenly, I am flung onto the ground. Little pebbles piercing my skin sent sharp pains where they jabbed. The intruder pushed me out of the way to run and escape. One of the men chased after the intruder, while the other said for me to go inside while he surveyed my home and to call the police. I locked the doors, and I called the police. While I'm on the phone with dispatch, I maniacally run around the house to double check all the windows and doors. Suddenly, I hear a loud bang on my door. I inform the dispatch of the banging, and she informs me that the police weren't there yet. I thought it might be one of the gentlemen who helped me. I go to look out the eye hole. and it's him, the intruder. He came back. He's banging on my door, screaming that I had his glasses and that he was not done with me. I absolutely freak out. The dispatcher attempts to calm me down, but I'm losing my ever-loving mind. She then said, "They are pulling onto your street now. You should hear the sirens." I did. Thank God. The intruder then blasts off. One officer jumps out the passenger side while the car is still moving and chases after him. The second officer comes into my home, interviews me and the two gentlemen, collects evidence, takes photos. After some time of him being there, Cherry comes home and freaks out. Once the situation was explained to her, she said, "Oh my God, that could have been me." Yeah, thanks Cherry, it's all about you. The next morning, I am called in to identify a man they had in custody. I pointed him out. I go into a little room, and the officer pulls out an evidence bag. He asked me if the items were mine. They were. They were my underwear and photos taken from my home. The officer informed me that the intruder had been stalking me for some time now. He estimates 3 months. He had made a nest outside our home on top of a hill that overlooked into our living room and kitchen. He is a known sex offender and drug dealer. He then told me how lucky I was to get out practically unharmed. Others weren't so lucky. To the man who stalked me and broke into my home, let's not meet again. However, I would love to run into those two gentlemen again. Every day, I am thankful for them. I was 23 years old at that time and a student. I was living alone in a small apartment complex not too far away from my school. I've never liked living alone. I was also afraid of the dark. However, I always felt safe in my little apartment. It only had one way to get in, and you needed to unlock 2 doors to get inside, the main front door to the building and the door to my apartment. I also used to have a few lights on even at night, and my laptop was usually playing some movie until I fell asleep. I always locked my door, except this one time. One weekend, I was out drinking with my friends, and when I was going back home, I ended up sharing a taxi with a random guy that was going to the same area as me. We both jumped out of the taxi outside my place and talked for a little while. He was about the same age as me and said he was also a student. He walked me to my front door, and we said goodnight, and I went inside. Some weeks, maybe a month later, I decided to stay home that weekend. I was just watching some series in bed until I fell asleep. Suddenly, I woke up to a voice. I couldn't really hear what the voice was saying, but I could hear it was a man talking. I opened my eyes. The room was dark, but I could see a shadow standing in the doorway to my bedroom. I froze. My adrenaline started pumping. I couldn't scream. I just kept staring at the figure. I thought I must be dreaming. This has to be a nightmare. But I understood quickly my biggest fear had come true. He stopped talking, and I asked quietly, "Who are you?" He took a step closer and whispered, "Don't you remember me?" He was clearly drunk, but I suddenly could see it was the same guy I shared a taxi with some weeks ago. I felt some weird feeling of relief that I recognized him, but at the same time, I was horrified. My thoughts started spinning. What did he want? Why was he here? I didn't know what to do. There's no place to hide or run to. My first thought was to try to stay calm, so I just asked quietly what he was doing here. "I was thinking about you," he said, and continued. "I turned off your lights and closed your laptop." He smiled. I kept looking at him. I was still in my bed, still didn't know what to do. I felt sick of the thought of him walking around my apartment while I was sleeping, but decided that I will continue to stay calm. I asked him how he got into my building. He said that he had been ringing my doorbell, but I didn't open, so he tried my neighbor's doorbell, and someone opened up for him. He also went into my neighbor's apartment, but realized it wasn't mine. He then saw my name at the door and went in. I think he could see the fear in my eyes. He suddenly turned around and said, "I think I should go." He stumbled out, and I went after him. Right before he left, he said, "You should really lock your door." I shut the door in his face and locked it. I went back to bed and cried. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I never called the police, but I told my friends the next day. The following month, someone would ring my doorbell every now and then in the middle of the night. I would get an anxiety attack every time. I never opened up, but I had a feeling it could be him. I never saw the guy again. I'm so relieved nothing happened that night, and from this day, I always double check that I have locked. I also removed my name from the door. So to this guy, let's not meet again. Hey, it's the Trip Keeper here. I know this is a change of pace from my regular trip reports, but I wanted to branch out a little bit and try this video. It might not do well, and I might not ever do it again, but I'm just checking to see if people would enjoy this. If you're new here, please subscribe, and also, if you're enjoying this video so far, please give it a like, and comment down below a horror story you've had. I also want to say be careful out there. There's a lot of human trafficking going on in my area, and it's probably happening in your area too. A business just got shut down for it. They were shipping out women throughout the night. When I would deliver mail to that business, I had no idea something was going on there, so that's fucking freaky to think about. I hate to scare you even more with that, but we all need to be very careful out there, because you never know what can happen to you. Your life can change in an instant. With that being said, let's move on to the last story. I live in a not-so-great area in Cleveland, Ohio. This story happened to me about 3 weeks ago when I was homebound from work because I was sick. I was sitting in my kitchen eating cereal when I noticed a black van parked opposite the street of my house. There were like 3 people in it, but I just assumed it had something to do with one of my neighbors. I keep my house deadbolted anyways and have a gun and an alarm system. I was watching YouTube on my phone when it rang with an unknown number. I picked it up, asking who it was, and it was a woman. She asked, "Is this so-and-so?" I said yes, and she kept talking, telling me that my friend was in a bad car crash and was severely injured. She told me I needed to come home as quickly as possible, as I may not have a lot of time left. After hearing that, I sort of became manic. I grabbed my car keys and wallet and ran to my car to start driving to the hospital. I got halfway down the street when I realized I didn't even know what hospital to go to, so I tried calling the number again, but they didn't pick up. I copy and pasted the number into Google and a hospital didn't come up, just a bunch of random shit. I tried calling my girlfriend's number and she picked up immediately. It's embarrassing, but I was crying, and I asked her what happened and if she was okay. She said she was fine, and when I mentioned the hospital, she said she had no idea what I was talking about. I was really confused and couldn't really process what was happening, but I turned around and went home. When I got in view of my house, I saw the black van parked backwards into my driveway. It wasn't fully clicking in my dumbass brain what was happening, but I knew well enough they had no reason to be in my driveway. When I drove over there was only one dude in the car now. The other 2 were literally right at my front door, which I had forgotten to lock when I ran out to my car. They were all wearing beanies and face masks, so it was hard to actually see what they looked like, besides their eyes. When they saw me pull next to their van, the 2 started running back over to my car, and we all started having a shouting match. It was basically me screaming, "What the fuck are you doing in my driveway?" and them telling me to shut the fuck up. We kept doing that when one of them flashed a pistol at me and threatened to shoot me. As soon as I saw the gun, I floored my gas pedal and fumbled to call 911 as I drove. I could see them pulling out of my rear view, driving in the opposite direction out of the neighborhood. The police still came, and I gave them a description of the van and the clothes they were wearing. I also managed to memorize like half their plate, but I doubt they were real anyways. I had so much adrenaline pumping through my body that I was shaking. I filed a report with them, but haven't heard back since. It's just kind of the way it is around here, sadly. Either way, I was really startled because not only did they know where I live, but obviously they were the caller and somehow knew my name, my girlfriend's name, and that I was home from work. That shit scared the hell out of me, and now I have a Ring doorbell system. I also triple check my doors are locked every time I leave the house now. I pray to God some shit like that never happens to me again, because it was horrible. And to those people who tried robbing my house and threatened to kill me, let's never fucking meet again.